what is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the singles off of Daddy Yankee's 2008 soundtrack album. Basically, this project is called Talento de Barrio, and it came out in the summer of 2008. So basically, Talento de Barrio means hood talent in English as far as those pitches can happen, similar to like Barrio Fino from 2004 and Barrio Fino en Directo from 2005, the live album. The live album as far as those pitches can happen. So Daddy Yankee was on a pretty big string of hits throughout, the mid-2000s as far as those pitches can happen. He was definitely a banner and, de facto kind of reggaeton and Latin rap type artist in like the 2000s as far as those pitches can happen. But the thing about it is, I question like the full-blown appeal of El Cartel, the Big Boss. That was a good album, but it seemed like Barrio Fino, the two Barrio Fino albums, just had a lot more impact within the fare behind it. It's not like it was a snag, but it was just kind of the concept that this felt maybe like, maybe more like Eminem's The Eminem Show or Eminem's Encore, one of those type pitches that was not as heralded as like Slim Shady LP and, Marshall Mathers LP, some of those type ones. But within the pitch, this is a soundtrack album here, so I'm thinking, yeah, there was a film with the same name to this particular fare as far as those pitch can happen, so it's a good type fare to be able to get that. But this is a classic album here. This definitely brings back Daddy Yankee to his like appeal, at least from what I judged by the singles. There's 4 of them on here, and they all hit pretty heavily. They seem like they had a lot of chart appeal. According to the success of this album, Daddy Yankee was named by CNN, a news station, that he was the most influential Hispanic artist in 2009 and the most searched artist on Google of Argentina in 2009. So it's a good type pitch to be able to get that. Had a big world tour with this particular album as far as this fair is going to happen. This is an album that went double platinum in the Latin field certification as far as this pitch can happen with this, and good type fare. It's excellent type pitch. It's real impactful type one. Just really appreciate the appeal behind this particular project. This has a lot of crossover appeal. Now the thing about this particular album is the fact that it does not have like the vintage Daddy Yankee type style. When you think of songs like Rompe, Gasolina, some of those type of ones, you think of some of Daddy Yankee's mid-2000s hits like Gasolina, Rompe, Gangsta Zone, some of those type ones that just have a little bit more traditional type dance thump about them. It's differential within the tone, but it kind of has like, when the factoid that Daddy Yankee did not really drop an album in 2009, Don Omar, that was more his year, 2009, when he dropped I Don and some of those type of ones. But this particular album, more so than El Cartel, the Big Boss, is a part of like the blossoming kind of MySpace era type songs as far as those pitches can happen. More kind of jingles, pitches like that, some of those type ones. When you think of songs like when you think of some of the songs from IDON and some of those type pitches, Pitbull was blossoming, the upcoming like EDM sound was starting to pop off, so things were kind of becoming more like Tayo Cruz, Pitbull type fare, just with more kind of bopping, kind of LMFAO like kind of EDM dance club stepper as far as this pitch can happen. And Daddy Yankee was mildly a part of that. It doesn't full bound embrace that, but this is a different type album. This is kind of like one that's kind of like a conduit type project, just within the sense it's kind of within the appeal. Now the next album that Daddy Yankee dropped was Mundial, and it might be Mundial or Mundial in 2010, but I look after within the appeal behind it. It's just some good type tones. It's gonna be interesting to see what that album's about. But yeah, it's at least able to say that Daddy Yankee didn't lose his flair and appeal way out in 2008, because he had been around since like the 90s, but he did have several hit singles and was kind of a big deal way back in 2002, 2003 as well. So it's just kind of the concept. He was on like his 6th, 7th year as far as like having like a mainstream kind of widespread appeal as like a reggaeton type artist, just in the aspect behind it. So yeah, there are 4 singles here. Basically, I recommend all 4, so I'll go ahead and say this album, at least in terms of the singles, is going to get a 10 out of 10. But Somos de Calle is like the lead single, and this is the song We're From the Street. That's what it means in English. This is like a pacey kind of urban bubbler, kind of some on-the-go. We're From the Street is like a pacey kind of urban bubbler. I'd had to say here, just an on-the-go kind of quality grind tune. I'd had to say within that pitch, and just the money get type song going to get here. It's a real street stepper, just within the pitch behind it. It's like a real urban flavor, like the particular. It's got some real urban type flavor, like the appeal. This particular one is a good aspect for some of this. Just a real nice groove to kind of get. Just some more street soldier type tune within the aspect behind it. A lot of this has a little bit more commercial vanilla type feels about it, but this is one that just takes it more to like the urban sense, just kind of a more hustler's makeshift type one. It's kind of get hop to the money, some of that type fare. So some of the lyrics I appreciate out this particular song is one of the lines where he says the ambition is the first step to betrayal, which is a good type line. It's not every folk that kind of catch that particular veneer about it. And then the kings of the street are not from the courts as far as those pitch kind of happens. So it's just good type concept as far as saying that the folks of like the hustlers makeshift that are kind of amongst like the product of it is some good type fare. So it's just good appreciation of that. Now obviously these lyrics are in Espanol, so you'd have the pitch behind it, but some good type fare translating some of those when you find them on the internet. Some good type appeal for that. But it's beyond say. So Pose is the second single, which basically means the same as like you would think it would in English. So Pose just means pose, which is this good concept for that. It's like a super snazzy kind of dance heat to kind of get here. Just a sharp midnight heat, and I'd say crazy crunk fun. I would definitely feel like within that tone, it's just an overall standout. So this has a really electrifying production on here, just real nice one. This is the sort of pitch that like folks like Tayo Cruz, Pitbull, Don Omar, some of those type of folks were doing in 2009, 2010. Now this is not quite EDM flavor, but it's definitely a pretty jazzy and just overall shocking type, just dance sparkle here to kind of get within that tone as far as those pitch can happen. This definite easy ass shaker. This should be an easy song to get ladies bounce as far as those pitch can happen. Just the aspect of this, like that relative jive and just, you know, vibrosity. It's that vibrant kind of groove as far as just like a good jolt of energy and just like some good quality just upkeep as far as this pitch can happen. So it's just good type tone. This really works for that sort of affair. I question. I'm gonna see how popular this song particularly was. Now this reached the bubbling under 100 singles on the Billboard just in regular charts. It reached a rank of 123. It's the 123rd most popular song in America for a good while, which is pretty good for that particular appeal. And in terms of like the Billboard Hot Latin songs, it reached number 4. So it made a lot of noise. It seems like it was a pretty popular one. According to Spotify, this is the second most popular song off the album. Basically has over 220 million plays. The most popular one is Llamado de Emergencia, and that one has over 400 million plays. So it's just kind of within the pitch behind it, but basically Pose is a nice one. So I do like that one, and some of the lyrics I like on this particular song would be some of the lyrics I enjoyed off this particular song was right at the beginning of the song. He says she explodes like in Iraq, and mom she explodes like in Iraq. And another good line off this song is when he says, "Mommy, come to the webcam." So it's a good type pitch. Just being able to say within that affair, as far as more things started to become more internet centric within some of those type pitches. So it's a good type tone for some of that. Real nice dance heater as far as those pitches kind of happen. Llamado de Emergencia is the third single in English. This means emergency call. It's a real nice one here. It's like a throwback kind of summery outdoor dance fest to kind of get within that tone. It's real balmy, kind of feels almost rainy outside, but also where the sunlight is out. This type of summer commerce, I'd have to say, a real nice commercial grab here. Just very similar to Despacito, some of those type ones. Just one of those ones that just kind of feels out in like the summer weather, just in like the makeshift push of it. I'd have to say it's like a vintage mid 2000 style Daddy Yankee dance bop as well. I'd have to say within the pitch. This is like a throwback one, not quite as ferocious as songs like Gasoline or Rompe, but definitely within the same fashion of that, just within the tone as far as those fairs kind of happen. It's kind of within the pitch of just like a summer type antic type one, or maybe it'd be like a barbecue type, cookout type appeal where there'd just be some dance crazes, just basic kind of minor twerk fest, just within an example. So it's kind of makeshift, but also kind of just traditional kind of Daddy Yankee, just in the sense of like something from like his mid 2000s days. So it's a good type of appeal, a real nice one. And this one, this is like the biggest radio grab on here. I'd have to say once again, this has over 400 million plays on Spotify, so it's a good type of appeal. Just basically, probably like the makeshift radio jingle. I'd say this is the one that had the most crossover. Some of the lyrics I recommend on here would be, "You have the recipe to set my heart in rhythm." It's a good type of appeal for that. Now there's more lyrics in between. He basically says you have the recipe and some extra stuff. Then he says to set my heart in rhythm. It's a good type of appeal for that. It's really like the appeal as far as those pitch can happen. And he also says another nice line he says on this song is, "Without you, the thorns are the ones that bloom." So it's just within the pitch of just saying that just having more foul luck and just the aspect that you're getting more thorns in life as opposed to more beauty from the rose as far as those pitch can happen. So some good type tones for that. It's really like the appeal behind it. Some good lines on here. Just real good aspect of just being able to have these lines just within the particular song as far as that appeal kind of goes. It's typical kind of heartache just within the pitch of like a summer makeshift type tune just within the affair. So some good type tones for that. Some good folks that kind of did this. Daddy Yankee was a forefront of like reggaeton, Latin rap as far as this pitch can happen. So it's just a good example of like a radio grab here. Traditional type one that probably stretched for a good while across 2008 and like the late 2000s, I'd have to say, just for the appeal. And then Que Tengo Que Hacer is a nice one as well. That basically means in English, what do I have to do? It's like a paced kind of everyday dismay of a song in like a late 2000s MySpace jingle fair just within the pitch behind it. This one just feels like one of those radio snap type ones that you would have probably heard throughout the internet as far as those pitch kind of happen. happen. Just a nice dance venue jive. Also, I'd have to say, just typical kind of Tuesday, Wednesday type comedy to kind of get here. It's just this one-on-one. It's a little bit more of like a traditional K-Tango, K-House there. Just feels like a more personable type one to kind of get within the tone. Not quite as makeshift compared to Yamato Day Emergency. I'd have to say just more typical kind of Bella's disc type. It's more typical kind of Bella's disc made just within the fashion. Just some summer heartache just within the pitch as far as those pairs going to have with it. Just a good aspect of this. Like something that would get you to work Tuesday, Wednesday type fashion. Is kind of a relative overcast type day just within pitches like that, but also has some dance venue job of just maybe letting off some steam at it like a dance venue, something like that. Just kind of the conduct of this beginning of the week type fair that just deals with the conduct of figuring out, kind of situating, all right, what's up with Bay as far as those pitches can happen, what's going on just within the aspects. It's kind of within the pitch behind it. But this has a lot of good MySpace and internet rap kind of late 2000s snap that just kind of has like a mild kind of touch and splash of just like some good kind of EDM electronica about it. This is kind of like a relatively early conduit for like some trendiness as far as those pitches kind of happen just within the tone behind it. Just I feel like Pose is definitely one that has a lot of just like fashion about it, but that one's I'd probably this. All of these kind of have like a mild splash of like some trendy type flavor about them. They just kind of have some aspects of like some transformative type ones just kind of within the pitch that this kind of did some things that was kind of a shapeshifter, because they just, most of these sound quite different from Daddy Yankee just the year before when he did El Cartel, the Big Boss. So it's a good type of appeal. But basically the lyrics that stand out on K-Tango, K-House there wasn't any particular, it's not to say that this is a bad song, it's just kind of the concept that it's pretty straightforward with the lyrics, just basic concept of this. How do I get Bay back within the pitch? Just like the song says, tell me what I have to do, what has to happen here. Just the basic kind of piecing things back together as far as those pitch can happen. This is just a basic kind of bickering dismay, I'd have to say, just a stellar radiograph to kind of get within that tone. So it's a good type fare for that. That's the concept of this album. In terms of singles, gets a 10 out of 10 just to say within the fashion. The social score gets a 10 out of 10 as well. Just I'd say this has a lot of good varietized type aspects. Like I was saying, this has the trendiness factor, some songs that kind of feel like they're starting to embrace EDM within the pitch, realizing that some of the styles from like the Gasolina and Rompe days are just a little bit different nowadays just within the fare behind it. I like the Despacito type style. I like the Despacito type style, Yamato Day Emergency. Pose definitely has one of the most excellent Daddy Yankee beats I've heard in a while. It's probably like top 5 of some of his best productions that he's been on. Just would have to say that's easily like a career standout. I'd have to say at least from like the 4 or 5 or 6 projects I've heard from him thus far. Definitely some excellent type fare, and Somos de Calle is definitely a nice one within the pitch behind it as far as like a good urban type promo single kind of street rumbler within the pitch. So it just has a lot of appeals behind it. Just some good aspects, just taking it to every avenue. Some makeshift songs, some dance songs, some Tuesday, Wednesday kind of dance club push type songs kind of have within that sense, and like an urban kind of hustlers makeshift type songs. So this has a good appeal. So I'd say 10 out of 10 social. There might be actually some promo songs in here. Don't know it's full bound. It seemed like this album was a pretty big deal in the summer of 2008 and early 2009 and just the late 2000s, I'd say. So some good type of appeal for that. But in terms of the future, the unfortunate thing is Daddy Yankee has said that he's retired. So it's an unfortunate aspect that there's not more albums like this as far as those fairs can happen. I want to say there might have been a sequel to this album, something like that. He might have done like another soundtrack album. I know at least Mundial came out in 2010, so there's some more type ones. I'm also going to get to El Congre. Like there's one album that like he dropped an album in 2002. I've been kind of putting it off because it has 6 singles. I do want to get to that, and I think it's probably going to be some vicious quality, but it's just the concept of not being lazy. Just within tone. So there are some ones in here as far as those pitches can happen, but this is an easy classic. It's definitely a standout this is definitely an album standout for Daddy Yankee, I'd have to say.